nationalism, and we were fighting to liberate ourselves from freedom. And for the first time, lot of Indians by that time, there was greater mobility that Indians could travel. We're talking of a huge span. Indians and other people could travel to Europe relatively easy. About 28 days by ship, you could reach England from India. So the interaction happened between the subject people of India with their masters in England. All right, so that is where our people learned that nationalism could be a factor for uniting our people against their colonizer. Correct. So from that standpoint, every Indian is a nationalist.
Perfect. Nice ones. Since I heard some nationalism point, I have some nice gentlemen. I mean, this side they look on the wider angle of it. Not only okay, fine, being a nationalist is fine. Being an Indian is okay. But still, exploring in other countries, is it wrong? Being a global person is wrong. No. So, since veteran and that's why I want from you first. All right. So, sir said, okay, being a nationalist is fine. Okay, being an Indian, even though they travel all the way to UK and all, it's a part of globalization only, right? He can stay in India only. Why do you all the way to UK then? So, according to you, being a global person, or maybe going abroad for the future studies or further studies, settling there, or maybe connecting India to the global platform, is it right or wrong? And I want a definition also of globalization according to you.
Okay, and the same principle, 5 minutes?
Yeah, you can go. And we will be having a talk on divide as well. Post that.
Got it.
Yeah,
got
go
it.
on.
Okay, first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here, NIT Trichy. This is my first visit to NIT and to Trichy. And I had a most wonderful time before lunch when Anish and I'm just blanking on the other volunteer's name. They took me on a bicycle ride around the campus, and it's beautiful. I loved it. I enjoyed that very much. So I'm just very pleased to be here where almost everybody is riding bicycles. That's wonderful. And I hope that you continue riding bicycles as you go on in your life. So that's one. See, the thing is, I think one of the things that one must get some idea and some clarity about before we plunge into what is right, what is wrong, etc., is this idea of, where do these terms come from? And I do want to thank you, sir, for bringing history into this, because without history, these terms mean nothing, right? And even if you take just the last 100 years, compare the world in 2025 with what the world was in 1925. Just do a simple comparison. What do you find? You find that in 1925, there were approximately 65 to 70 nations in the world. Today, there are 193 member countries, member states of the UN, and there are 2 observer states, right? So it's more than doubled. It's almost tripled the number of countries that have emerged in the last 100 years. The number of nations has almost tripled. Why has this happened? Sir was absolutely right in saying that the idea of nationalism would make no sense without the history of colonialism. That is absolutely correct. In 1925, the population of the world was about 2 billion people. All right, roughly. The estimates are, the commonly accepted estimate is about 2.1 billion people lived on this planet Earth in 1925. Today, that number is about 8.15 billion or so, roughly. All right. Now, of these 2 billion people, about 30 to 35% of that population lived in countries that were under direct colonial rule, such as India. And there was an additional about 25-30% of the world's population that lived in countries that were semi-colonial or dependent, right? Such as China, or such as large parts of Africa, or certain parts of Latin America, which were under indirect control of the US. What you get is about 65 to 70% of the world's population in the year 1925 lived in countries that were either directly colonial countries or semi-colonial countries. What does that actually mean? Of course, it means that you have, people who are not of your background who rule you. That is one part of it. But the other very important part of it is that the Industrial Revolution, for instance, that Sir mentioned, that would never have been possible without the colonial loot that happened in places such as India. And there are estimates for that. Trillions of pounds over 100-year period were looted from India, literally just looted from India, from Africa, from Latin America, etc., which made these countries of the West, the Western European countries and the North American countries, the industrial powerhouses that they eventually became, right? So in other words, if you see the history of the last 100 years, the last century or so, you see that there's a constant dance, in a sense, between imperialism or colonialism and decolonialism, decolonization. Countries become independent. How do they become independent? They don't become independent because suddenly one day the British, suddenly become good people and they say, oh, we have ruled India for too long. Now, we have reformed ourselves. Now you become independent. No. Countries become independent when they fight battles for national liberation. Right? That's how they become independent. In India, there's the freedom movement. And in many other parts of the world, there were liberation movements that were fought. Nationalism, as we know it in the mid-19th century, around the time of India's independence in the 1940s and 50s, is to a great extent a result of these movements. But the efforts of the colonial powers, of the Western European powers, of the powers of North America, to keep their colonial privileges in place, that has not died. And it is not a coincidence that today you have the President of the United States of America saying that, well, we should have Greenland. Hello, excuse me? Greenland? You're just going to go there and buy Greenland? What gives you the right to do that? Aren't there people who live there? And so on. Now, the larger point I'm trying to make is that what gets called the world order, what gets called the rules-based international order, right? This order is an invention or it's been evolved in the interests of these powers that were colonial powers and still have colonial ambitions. So rules-based means what? Rules according to who? Right? How is it that in Gaza, over the last year and a half almost, you've had, God knows, tens of thousands of people being killed, right? Just being bombed and killed. Gaza is pretty much demolished, right? And nothing, the rules-based international order somehow thinks that this is okay, that this is not a crime. This is not a crime against humanity. This is not supposed to be a genocide, and so on and so forth. Why? Because Israel has the backing of the United States. And this is not just a question of Trump. It's not about one leader or this leader or that leader. The United States as a nation and the ruling elites in the United States have always backed Israel. And that has given Israel the courage and the impunity to do whatever the hell they want. Now, the larger point here is this, that if you're talking about nationalism, then yes, I'm all for nationalism as long as nationalism means respect of everybody who lives in that country. It means control over the destiny of the people of that country. It means control over the resources of that country. If the people have control over the resources, if we can decide what we want to do, then that is sovereignty. And I'm all for sovereignty, 100%. I'm all for nationalism of this kind. Not a nationalism that is exclusive, not a nationalism that teaches people to hate other people. You say that I love my country, but almost 50% of my country I hate. Why? Because I don't like their religion, I don't like their language, I don't like what they eat, I don't like who they marry, I don't like this, I don't like that, etc. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand what that means. If you love this country, then love it in all its diversity. If that is what is meant by nationalism, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If by being a global citizen, it means that I keep true to my culture, I carry my culture wherever I go in the world, and yet I'm open to receiving influences from all over the world,
Makes sense.
then I'm all for a global culture. But when I say all over the world, I mean literally all over the world. Now, why is it that when we think of Western influence,
Yeah.
we only think of influence that comes from Western Europe and from North America? Why don't we think, for instance, of the influence that has come from Iran? For instance, what used to be called Persia. Persia has had for over 1,000 years, for 1,500 years, Persia has had a deep influence on this country, on the culture of my country, on the languages that we speak, on the food that we eat, on the dress that we wear, on the religions that we practice. Religions, not one, many religions,
Yeah.
right? And so on and so forth. I'm all for such influences, which are influences that are brought by interactions amongst people, as long as that is not backed by force.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, there are some strong words which I have noted from Sir, which I believe the best person to throw a light from the nationalist side is none other than Rahul Ishwar. The reason why I'm pulling into this, oh my God. Yeah, the reason I'm putting into this, there are certain facts because he said he's okay with nationalism as long as the diversification and we value each other, everything he said. Okay, fine, I take it. Even I don't know how many percent of the people we do believe it. But sir, being a nationalist, I mean, you also follow nationalism, or you also said, and you are sitting nationalist. Do you think that the diversification and all these points what he said is still there in our country?
Okay, 5 minutes, 3 points. Whenever I speak, I tell the amount of time I'm going to speak and the point I'm going to speak. First of all, let me respectfully and strongly disagree with Sudhanda sir and many things said here. What kind of I seriously don't understand what kind of intellectual gibberish are we talking. See, you are talking about so many things in the world, talking about, of course, people dying in Gaza is very sad, absolutely yes. But when we are debating something, what is nationalism? And who said nationalism is a product of colonialism? I'll ask you a question. Which is the strongest nation in the world right now? Whether we like it or not, it is USA. Whether we like it or not, America is by far the military superpower, the economic superpower of the world. Who discovered America? It was a guy called Christopher Columbus who discovered America. Where was Christopher Columbus in search of while he accidentally discovered America? He was in search of India and he accidentally discovered America. And therefore, nationalism is a product of colonialism. Even before the colonial power came here, there was an idea of India. And Christopher Columbus accidentally stumbled upon America, believing that people there is Indians and called these people Red Indians, Nutty Indians. The name is still there. See, we are not a product of colonialism. We are a nation that is a nation or a land or a civilization, country, land, whichever way you want to call it. We are 5,000 years old. We are not a part of British. Rather, the second point, we became colonialized because we didn't have enough nationalism. For example, I'll ask you my second question, second point, and I have 2 more minutes. How many British soldiers and officers were there in India when Britain ruled us? Have you ever thought about this question? How many British soldiers and British officers, including their family members, were there in India when Britain ruled us? You will be surprised to know it was somewhere around 1.8 lakhs to 2 lakh people that was associated with British when they ruled India. Do you know what was our population then? We were nearly 20 crore to 25 crore people. 2 lakh Britishers, they ruled 20 crores Indians because we lack nationalism. That's the reason why people like Mahatma Gandhi, Nehruji, Netaji, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Veer Savarkar, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, so many people from all the different parties, M.N. Roy from left, everyone came together. We conceived that we want to get freedom. If there was no India, who was trying for freedom? So India as an idea already existed. The issue with the left wing is they believe India started only in 1947. Simply no. We are a nation that has been for thousands of years. Yes, and sir, the third point directly countering, sir. Sir says 1920 there was only 50 to 70 nations in the world. Now we have 194. Sir, 100 years back, my great grandfather's family only had 10 to 12 people. Now, because we have sons, daughters, sons, great grandsons, we are right now around 120 people. Does that mean I don't have a family? 100 years back, he was only 50 members in the family. Now they are married, they have kids, the kids have kids, and the population really grew. So the idea of India, the leftists trying to dilute because they don't want to accept nationalism. I'm not saying you should accept jingoism. No. Nationalism is always there. You can call it patriotism. The left-wing people want nationalism to be bad. So call it patriotism, it is okay. Call it by any other word, it is okay. So whether you call it nationalism, patriotism, love for motherland, India or something, this is something absolutely needed for the world. 3 minutes 40 seconds. Right now I have 1 minute and 20 seconds more. And Sir says something like, Persia had influence in my country for the last 1500 years. And he says India is a product of colonialism. How is that possible? Persia was having influence over India for the past 1500 years. We are at least there for the past 1500 years. Yes, the borders may have changed. Just like your great parents' properties, it might have changed. Maybe your father has added something, maybe your uncle has sold something, and the core is always there. So, my last minute, I would like to conclude by saying, see, we are a nation which proudly says Vande Mataram and Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu together. We don't have any clash between both. It is Vande Mataram, whether it is Jai Hind, whether it is Bharat Mata Ki Jai on one hand, and Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu on the other hand. We are home to two of the oldest civilizations and language in the world, both Tamil and Sanskrit. So it is something like we have that culture and history and heritage. The left wing wants to dilute it, say that you are something new. You are only a product of past century, which is absolutely wrong. And we are one of the oldest civilizations in the world. We are one of the oldest lands in the world, and it is time to reclaim that heritage. Unless we will again go back to some kind of a global theory where the global capital will decide what to do. So I'd like to end by saying, yes, nationalism is there. That is there in our roots, and we are Indians first. Let's be proud of that. Okay. Now, no, even at my initial talk, even though I said like I've been worked around in 6 countries, even I also when Janaganamana comes in, I will automatically give it chant. I never say that. I mean, I will never stand up. Even the people here also, which supports the globalism or the concept, they will also stand automatically. Even when a match happening in Dubai, where India and Pakistan, when Janagana comes in, everybody stands there. So it's not that, we don't have that kind of diversity or maybe the acceptance. It's not that I never feel that. Maybe that's not my perspective. I want to hear from Sir. What exactly what you mean? How do you counter him? Because he is into altogether put the certain facts in the picture. How do you counter him?
Well, Rahul Ishwar is a dear friend, but let me tell you, little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Guys, I tell you one thing, the heat is on.
It's like a fast food, which can be tasty for some time, but later it gives stomach problems. Rahul, take care of it. Now, please pay attention. Now, there were certain discussions about nation state. Let me get the fallacy right. How did nation state evolve? In the medieval times, there used to be a certain dynasty that used to have the state within its control. For example, 1648. We had the Bourbon monarchy in France, Louis XIV claiming that I am the state. But then we have subsequently the Enlightenment movement, whereby we had enlightened thought, empiricism, where it was emphasized upon liberty, equality, and fraternity. Henceforth, the state shall not comprise of selected few dynasties who would be controlling the bureaucracy, but the state shall be comprising of every individual. The concept of citizenry came into effect.
Yes, sir, I have to interject you.
Wait a minute. No, sir, please, you will get your.
Let him complete. No. Give me time, sir. Let him complete. Let him complete. Yeah.
It was only after the French Revolution 1789 that we have for the first time the concept of citizenry evolving. And now what he's talking about is India existing since 5,000 years. Then let me tell him, first it was not India, it was Bharatavarsha in the ancient. Medieval times, it was Hindustan. It was only after 1857, when the last vestiges of feudal ages were destroyed, that we had the first time India as a term coined. Now, when I talk about nation and state, we have to be very clear. Nation means a consciousness, state means bureaucracy. We have to be very clear. Let's not get confused between government authority and a feeling of brotherhood. And let me tell you, all of you, till the time we as individuals do not feel ourselves as a part of the state, as the part of the government, the very exercise, the very franchise that we exercise when we are voting, we are not a nation state. The nation state is an outcome of a historical process. And the fundamental entity to nationalism and nation state is a feeling of equality and the triumvirate of equality, that is, both three, that is social, political, and economic. Today, if we have democracy in India, today, if we have all forms of institutions established, but we do not have equality realized over a period of time, we will again be a pseudo nation state, we will be a pseudo democracy. Guys, what I tend to emphasize over here is we became colonized because we had not updated ourselves towards the developments that were taking globally. There was no industrial development in India. On the warfare front, we were lagging behind. We were not able to update ourselves what is happening globally. And then we were only limited to the geographical entity. We were boasting about our past. That's not the way we were progressing. And suddenly, handful of people come, what colorless, tasteless. I mean, I'm telling you, the whites, they came with a superior technology, a better organization, and they were able to destroy all the last vestiges of feudal ages which were existing in the country.
Okay.
Over a period of time, just 1 minute. What was the basic demand in the Indian Councils Act 1892? The basic demand was a representative form of democracy, representative institutions. And till the time we have the representative institutions intact, we are going to have a sound functioning of nation state. If there are no functioning representative institutions and there's a coterie of few who are ruling the nation, we cease to be a nation state.
Perfect. See, it was bang on, right? We can give that. It was bang on. See, when we talk about globalization, I don't know what stops our country to be connected with other countries, given hands to them. Yes, we are giving hands, but what's wrong to give more hands to them so that economically and see, technically, technological wise, we are developed, no doubt about it. But the population just been equal to China, but still we are lacking in various areas. Ma'am, since you're being into ruling party spokesperson, sorry, I'm putting you in this with the topic, right? What stops us? Yes, we are traveling to various countries. I'm not naming the person because I'm not into it. We are traveling to various countries. We are come case, so everything is happening.
I've got the question.
Yeah, go on.
The men have spoken and I've listened. Now the woman will speak and everybody will listen.
Yeah. Over to you, ma'am. Over to your
Thank you so
points.
much. It's 2025 and I really didn't think that I was going to meet a British apologist in NIT Trichy.
Oh.
There is a difference between understanding reality and being delusional. Unfortunately, everybody who even attempts to make any excuses for colonialism comes in the second category. I say that with facts. I will. There is a body called the United Nations. You've all heard of it? Yes? Formed after the World War to ensure that there is a global understanding of what what peace is, what world order should be, so forth and so on. On section 2/7 of this United Nations Charter, there is one instruction which all member states think of very highly. It says that the United Nations will not do any sort of work that interferes politically in a country. I want you to think a little west and think of the one country that has significant amount of moral judgment on how another country should be run. There is only one country like that. That is the same country that tells us that Taylor Swift is probably the best musician on the world. That is the same country that makes sure that in the 70s, the villains are the Russians. In the 90s, the villains are the Islamists. And today, the villain is the Chinese. It is the same country repeat that. Mind you, moderator, I'm very aware that you'll bring this up. It's the same country that I studied in for 2 years and have never, not once in the 2 years in Harvard University, had the opportunity to sit across my ideological opponent and have an open conversation, which I am able to have in my land.
Wow.
The reason I have come back is that let us stop looking outward. Let us stop thinking that jeans pant is always going to be better than the dhoti. Let us stop valuing things that are alien to this land and for once walk with pride. I am not going to get into the gentleman's argument about history just now. And a show of hands, I want you to tell me. If a neighbor's house is burning and unfortunately that same fire has caught in your own house, how many of you will go save your neighbor before you save your mother? Show of hands. That is the argument between nationalism and global order. The argument. The argument is that in terms of technology, my professor used to say that since the Industrial Revolution, not before that, since the Industrial Revolution, we've had a situation where rapid technological progress has come from the West. Therefore, the West is price fixers. Other countries are price takers, meaning the West fixes the price, we take it. Innovation happens elsewhere, we swallow it. Guess what has changed in the last 10 years? Today in India, I can go to a young person, somebody who's selling tender coconut, send money from my bank, which might be HDFC, to an ICICI or a Canara Bank in a matter of 30 seconds. Why don't you visit America or UK and tell me the same technological revolution exists there? Because it does not. Today, India is innovating for the world. And the truth of that, everybody here might say, look, we didn't come up with DeepSeek, we didn't have AI coming up, but we are getting there. Why are we getting there? It's an important question for us to ask. We're getting there because of the realization that Rahul Ishwar spoke about. We're getting there because of the realization that Sandeep Balakrishna spoke about, which is that if I don't improve my own home, what is the point of going and being subservient to somebody else? What is the point? I will end with one other aspect. Please don't take this personally, but if you're going to teach a political science major that democracy started in Greece and Iran, I'm going to be exceptionally offended because you can come to my Karnataka where and Mantapa, where democracy was not a concept we read in our textbooks. Of course, they don't teach these to us in our textbooks. It was a concept that has lived and existed in Bharat for years. So do not tell me democracy is from the West.
Yeah.
Technological innovation is not possible elsewhere, is not possible in India. Do not tell me that the global order does not directly equate to American hegemony or anybody in that position, hegemony of a country that has market capital and has the size of GDP that's beyond all of us. That is what it comes down to.
By the way, I'll be having a point to that because that's a good point. You put all the 1, 2, 3 things. But we will take this debate on the next level. Since you said that we have technologically we have this institution, we have this studies, we have this blah blah blah. Everything I take away. Then why are we going abroad for studies then? Why are we around on an average 3 lakh plus? Only from a state called Kerala, maybe on 1 lakh. I don't know the exact count. And one more thing.
Of course,
My dear panelists talked about dhoti and jeans. So let me tell you, kurta and jeans also forms a very good dress combination. It's not necessarily no. Always have Western culture very well blended with the Indian culture. But it's not necessary to have from India.
I want to be unyielding about geopolitics. Geopolitics is not a game for the weak. It is a game for the strong. Stop being subservient to the Western power or anybody who has significant influence. Molly coddle us and say, oh, your country, I want it to be great.
Why are you one?
As long as the Indian sweat and
इंडिया के hold on. Right, right. All these things.
Shouting match. Stay in it. I'm not.
No, ma'am. I like you. Wait. Wait, ma'am.
I will answer your question. Why did I, the person who believes that this land is what I want to live for, go to a university where I had to study under an American school? That's the question? Yes.
Not only you, I'm talking in general.
Others as well.
Forget about it. I'm taking it personal.
Judgment on others. It is about their lives. But I will tell you about myself. I want to study the best of the best. Unfortunately, the Indian education system is not something that we can wear a badge of honor about yet.
So you accept it. That's Thank you.
It is think that we are the best and not look elsewhere. But it is disgrace to the nation to not come back and work. I teach at a university.
Do we have enough jobs in the market?
1 second, sir. 1 second.
Do we have jobs in the market?
Our PLF is survey shows
Jobs in the market. You know, ratios.
participation.
Okay, why?
Whereas
Ma'am, let me take the time from him also. Sir, I believe you've heard everything. So what's your take on this now?
So, am I audible? Yes.
Yeah, you are.
So, an aspiring lawyer once asked a senior advocate, how do I go about practicing law? And you know what advice he gave him? He said, if facts are on your side, pound the facts. If law is on your side, pound the law. If you have neither, pound the table. And that's where Rahul Ishwar comes in. See, Rahul Ishwar did not even notice the contradiction in what he was saying. He said that about 1.8 lakhs or something Britishers were able to rule over a population of 20 crore Indians or 30 crore Indians. How did it happen? Because Indians did not have a national conscience. That is what the great right-wing historian R.C. Majumdar wrote in his book. I'm sure Sandeep sir also is aware of it.
By the way, small correction.
Yeah.
Please don't use terms like right wing when describing people of the stature of R.C. Majumdar. He never considered applied those labels to himself.
Okay, fine. So let's have some personal. Take it back. Yeah.
Okay, R.C. Majumdar, who Wright looks upon as a great inspiration for a great historian, he himself said this could happen because Indians did not have a national conscience. Now, what Rahul Ishwar said about our religion being old, I mean, that is true. But we are talking about nationalism, not Hinduism. Nationalism is just a couple of, or maybe 3 centuries old, as Sandeep ji rightly pointed out. But what he also said in his remarks was that nationalism arose in the context of colonialism. Now, here's my question. Since colonialism no longer exists, why do we need nationalism? This is a self-defeating proposition.
It isn't. I'll just answer you right here.
Okay.
I don't think you comprehended, what I said very clearly.
Okay.
I said the kind of nationalism that arose in Europe, all right, has no applicability or context in India. Our nationalism is entirely different. It arose as a unifying factor, as a method, as a practical approach to bind people to fight colonialism.
That's exactly right.
The colonialism of the national.
But the Britishers are gone.
Please have some patience and listen to me.
Sure.
So the nationalism of Europe was used to build what is known as xenophobia, jingoism, whatever, against each other, against warring European states, which is not the case in India because India was not a united nation back then. Until 1947, it was a subject colonized race. So the meaning, the connotation, the practical applicability, you could check out all the constituent assembly debates, the whole history of Indian freedom struggle and how nationalism was used in that specific context as an element, as a weapon to deliver freedom, to get freedom from British rule. It is not the same case of nationalism in Europe.
I didn't say that either. I said you said that nationalism arose in the context
No, no,
of colonialism.
you said my argument was self-defeating. It wasn't, is what I'm saying.
So okay, I'm saying, if you are arguing that the nationalism in India was a unifying force against the Britishers, and Britishers are no more here, why do we need nationalism?
Why do you need a nation in that case?
I'm going to argue.
Why do you need a nation in that case?
I'm about to
If
argue.
you don't have nationalism, what? Why so?
Okay, let me bring some sanity
Why
into
do you
this.
in that case?
Let me bring some sanity into the discussion. But first,
You're not bringing sanity. You are not bringing sanity. You're moving far away from it, my dear friend.
Wow. Now I have a small thing here.
but I haven't had my 5 minutes.
Yeah, go on. No. Go on. Let him complete, sir. Go on.
So Surbi talked about hegemony of the US and how we cannot but be on the receiving end of it. We must assert ourselves. I mean, those of us who speak against nationalism, we are also against the nationalism of US. Why are you assuming that we are for nationalism of US but are against the nationalism in India? The very concept of hegemony of a nation assumes the existence of nationalism. We are for world order. We are not for US hegemony. Please be clear on that. And about loving our country, you know, Noam Chomsky was once asked by Patrick David on this. Do you love your country, America? You know what he responded? Love is a relationship between people. If you love your country, there is something wrong. Should Germans have loved Germany? Thank you, my friend. This is the problem. Just give my point, my friend. See, you proved my point that
You don't want India as a nation to exist.
not India, not India.
If India is a nation,
Once again,
and you are against nationalism,
Indian state is different from nationalism.
sir, I mean, this makes no sense. This really makes no sense. Okay, let me raise a point with
Can
this.
I raise a question? Can I raise a question to you?
I didn't have my 5 minutes.
No, he has a question for you. Do you know why we should love our nation? Because some of our forefathers worked hard and created institutions for us to learn and study. It's their Swatantra, and that's the reason why we are in National Institute of Technology, Trichy.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are taking effort on motherland. So you want our nation. Share themselves and just let me complete. Imagine Netaji Subhash got higher ranks with the British Civil Service. He sacrificed it. Why? He could have gone to Lahore. He could have money and go to China. He sacrificed it because he loved India. Mahatma Gandhi loved India. Or Nehruji loved India. Or Patel loved India.
He has a point. My question is Sundar Pichai a nationalist or not? Is Satya Nadella a nationalist or not?
I don't know. You have to ask them. No,
This is what is. Now, my dear friend,
I can give Lokachi data. 25% of the startups in Silicon Valley is managed by Indians. That itself shows we are considering them.
Hold on. What is his passport? He's an Indian passport holder.
Why do you care?
No, he's an American passport holder.
He went there because there were great institutions in law. This could give
No. When ma'am said that, no. When ma'am said that, she went to Harvard. She came back.
not only her mother, so what?
But
Please remember, she is learning from the best in the world and working for India. She belongs to any party. She is working for India.
Rahuji, his question is very simple. His question is very simple. Are they nationalist or not?
How do I know, sir? You have to ask what is nationalism.
That's why.
The larger point is nation states are a reality, and these globalists want to erase them. That's the real issue. They want to erase them. They want to paint nationalism as zero. Nationalism is bad. Look at the world over. What is getting more stronger? Whether it is US, Europe, Asia, India, nationalism is getting stronger day by day. The whole globalism is going out of stage.
Sir. It has no borders. Let me tell you, science has no borders. And when we are talking about within the context of human welfare, At that point of time, both nationalism and globalization are subservient to human welfare.
So who is denying? Yeah. So his point is right that human welfare is very important. Who is disagreeing to this? We are saying, just like ma'am raised a very important question. Our neighbor's house is on fire. My house is on fire. Then my mother and my motherland and my house is on fire. Our responsibility to douse the fire here first. Our nationalism, Gandhiji was denied not twice because he was too much of a nationalist. The person who wrote the national anthem, Rabindranath Tagore, was a human being. Yes, make India great again. Should be our
Sir. Sir, please tell me,
Yeah.
you yourself keep putting your house on fire and then you start extinguishing it. Then don't you think we will look into there is something wrong?
Thank you for explaining about your situation. Thank you for explaining about your situation.
Stop using traditional chula and come to LPG. I think technology will help you a better form of.
For so many, who is against all this? I saying it should be qualified in India. Wait, guys. Let him complete it. Wait. His point, I take a deviation. Let him complete it. Yeah.
So the remark that I made that provoked such an outrage was that love is a relationship between people. If you love your country, there's something wrong. You know, the context of that is, should Germans have loved Germany and they were persecuting the Nazis? I'm not saying that we are doing it. I'm saying, should Germans have loved Germany when they were persecuting the Nazis? And why there is so much personal investment into nationalism? Sir, let me explain it to you. Sir, they were persecuting,
Let him complete.
they were persecuting Jews, not Nazis.
Let him complete.
Nazis were persecuting Jews.
No, let him complete. Let him complete. Then you can have it on. You have time, ma'am. Let him complete. Yeah. Let him complete. Go on. Liberals are allowed to lie. Why are you like this?
First of all, why there is so much emotional investment in nationalism? You need to look at history. When did nationalism arose? With the fall of religious domination and with the fall of dynastic rule. People lost a sense of meaning from their lives. What to live for? How does this continue our lives? So alternative myths were invented about nations that you need to die for your nation. I mean, they are emotionally invested in an idea that is just a couple of centuries old.
Who is saying so? See, one simple question. Ask yourself. Where was Christopher in search of? He was in search of India. That was 500 years back. And they are saying India into every house. And the idea of nationalism is 300 years old. Now, just think about the fallacy. Just like India, Rahul living Nazi. Rahul.
He was not in search of India, he was in search of space.
One second.
He was in search of India. No. Wait.
He found India for spices, established colonies for spices.
That's the challenge for you. Why don't you take to mobile phones? Christopher Columbus in search of. Wait, ma'am, where was Christopher Columbus in? 1 minute. Ma'am, take you 30 seconds. Go on, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah, go on.
I'm glad that the Germany question has come up because we like listening, reading Chomsky a lot more than we like reading our own writers.
He was inspired by the Nazis, Gulwalkar.
May I?
Yeah, let it complete. Yeah,
I'm happy to give you a gift of a few books if you'd rather look a little closer to home. The nationalism of Germany was born out of guilt and shame after having lost a couple of the World War. The nationalism of India, or what we should be holding our pride on, comes from the Vishnu Puranas, comes from the Puranas that tells us that this land has always existed across centuries. It is not a nationalism that is built on exclusion. It is a nationalism that believes that you can believe this stone is God. You can believe God lives there. You can believe God lives here. We are all right and we are all going in the same path. That is the belief. That is the belief that fuels this nationalism. We have something to give to the world. I'm not going to look, these debates can sometimes become entertainment also, but it's also informative for us to remember that just as much as we live and work in these nation states that have been created, we require the world also to work together. Global order and nationalism are not antithetical, but it's a matter of priority. Comes down to priority. The argument from this side is Why would you prioritize a USAID funded thought process that democracy in India is dying? Is it because the Delhi elections were won by a particular party? Is it because
Yeah, you're pulling mine now. I'm pulling mine.
there are certain people who believe that when they win an election, like they did in Karnataka, the EVMs work just fine. But when they lose, it doesn't. Democracy is in danger. No, this is democracy. The fact that you and I are able to have this conversation on live stage is democracy. Let us stop being under this illusion. And the reason, sir, you said if there's no longer colonialism, let's not have nations. I mean, I forget the argument of that. There is something called neo-imperialism. There is something called an America, which does have significant power in this country. They were able to use the CIA to work in elections in Chile, in Cuba. These are all instances we've known about. Does that mean that we shy away and say, no, we're not going to do anything? We play the game. We play the game. Geopolitics is a game that ought to be played. If somebody believes that their territory within India needs to be seceded, we go after them from or elsewhere. That is the game to be played in geopolitics.
I have a question to you, sir. Wait, let me have a question to you. See, being into globalization, there will be a cultural diversification, right or wrong? Right? You'll be able to know other cultures, you will be able to explore so many things. Even you being there, like so the picture, whatever, the person you guys mentioned. So what's wrong in to being a part of a global country? I mean, we are not out about it, but still we are pulling ourselves. Now, coming back to her point also, I put that also in the context. In election ke baare mein, like she was saying, we won in Delhi, we won in Karnataka, blah blah blah. Everything. Okay, take it into consideration. This is a cultural game there. Using the name of certain kind of religion, caste, and all. It's a kind of a game. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I want to say is to the audience here, which is that I think it's a question that all of you need to ask yourself as young people, thinking people. That do you want to be thinking people, or do you want to be only a cheering mass of people? Thoughtless. All right, if you want to be thinking people, then I would encourage you to listen to everyone with thought, with your own intelligence. Let's not turn this into a shouting match, into a slanging match, but that's also not entirely the fault of the panelists that this is happening. I think this is also something that all of you need to take some responsibility for.
Makes sense. Yeah.
If this is turning into a slanging match, into a shouting match, it's because the audience is encouraging that. And do we really want that? Do we want the students from one of the premier institutions in India to be, shouting hordes of people, cheering people, etc.?
Think about it. Sorry to introduce her. If I say, just a minute, no, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt. No, I need to make you sorry.
Just please give me.
No. I need to make you sorry in this because I need to talk on their behalf now. In that sense, we cannot assume certain things that if they clap, doesn't mean that they're not making the voice.
No. I'm just saying. I'm not.
Yeah, you cannot assume that. No, clapping them, lingering fight, even though sometimes fights has been elections.
A wise man once said,
Don't twist.
and it is proverb. Do not underestimate your audience.
Exactly, sir. You don't underestimate audience.
Please, I'm not doing that. Please, let me.
No, we can stick to the point. What about the cultural diversification, sir? Please.
Let me just speak here.
Go on.
Let me just say something.
Go on.
I'm only saying that the fact that this turn is so easily turning into a shouting match is not only because of the panelists. That's the larger point I want to make. I'm not underestimating anybody. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. I'm speaking to you in a calm and reasonable way because I believe that you are thinking people. If I were not, I would speak like that. But the point is, the second point I want to make is that it's actually very interesting what's happening here. That you will find points of difference on both sides. That there are points of difference on this side internally, and there are points of difference internally on that side as well. And even more interestingly, there are several points of agreement across the board. That's the beauty of the whole thing.
And that's one of the beauty, sir. I'm here. That's what these guys are pulling me all the way. The second year I'm here.
Yeah.
To control the crowd here. Otherwise, I won't be here. You understand? See, if I am not a good moderator, they won't be here. See, sir, we will stick to the point because we are running short of time. We are running short of time, sir.
Please. I've been very quiet. I've been listening to everyone.
No, that's good. I mean, learning is about skill.
Yeah. Give me the courtesy of trying to finish what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, sir, let me tell you, sir, because we are running short of time. That's why we are coming into we should come to the point, please. Go on, sir, go on.
Please. The last point I want to make is that it's very easy to slip from one term to another as if they're the same thing. A civilization and a nation, in the way in which we mean it today, a nation state is not the same thing. Civilizations are ancient, and there is a civilization that you can call the Indian civilization, which is very many different things. If you go to different parts of the country, this civilization would mean slightly different things. It's not one thing. But there is a sense that our ancients, in the ancient times, they had a sense that this land that we now call India, which was actually much larger, in a sense, there was a subcontinent, but this was some kind of a cultural unity. Yes, that sense was there. But to say that the Indian nation is ancient is, I mean, the simple question to that is, when did Indians get a passport? When did you start having border control?
Exactly.
When did you start having visas? All of these are modern things. There's no harm in admitting that. This is just a fact. One is not running anybody down in this. If I say that the nation state is a...
So you have an answer. Shall I come to that? Yeah, you have an answer. Yeah. All right, let's go to it. Yeah, let's go with an answer. Let's go with an answer.
I'm saying the fact that something...
Sir, 1 minute. After it finishes, yeah.
The fact that something is modern has come about in the last 100, 200, 300 years is not to denigrate what existed earlier. Not at all. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying exactly the opposite. I'm saying that I'm very fortunate to have been born in this land. I'm very proud of this land, but I'm not proud only of the land. I'm proud of the people and the various cultures that inhabit this land that have been made by the people of this land. Now, of course, you can say that everything is ancient. Everything is ancient. The internet is also ancient. Flying saucers are also ancient. You can say that, plastic surgery is also ancient. These things have been said. I'm not saying that. These things have been said by other people. Right? You can believe that. If you want to believe that, that's fine. I don't think that it does any credit to my country, to this nation, to this civilization, by claiming that everything that is good, we already had it earlier. No, we didn't have it. We had some things, we didn't have other things.
Yeah.
There's no harm in admitting that. It doesn't make you any less. In fact, it's you open-minded.
Who is saying? So I want to go on.
See, this is called a straw man argument. Telling an argument that we never said and we never heard and collecting everything you had. Did somebody mention about flying saucers here? Did somebody tell that everything good in the world came from us? Absolutely not. We are all mindful. We are reasonable nationalists or reasonable patriots who understand there are greatness of this nation, and we also had our troubles. For example, casteism in its worst form was in our nation, which was a scourge that we had. People like Baba Saheb Ambedkar or people like Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, so many people, Periyar from Tamil Nadu, so many people fought against him. So all the people came forward and found a solution. We may disagree with many of the positions they held. At the same point of time, the real question here is, why do you want to denigrate everything associated with India? Saying that all the things great are coming from West, or imply that they are coming from West. We have our own shares of greatness. And regarding the energy, the question is, Do we want to be an armchair leftist ideologue, or do we want to be a passionate and purposeful Indian? Definitely, I would not want to be an armchair leftist ideologue. I want to be a passionate Indian who works for India. Naturally, we will have that energy because nation is also an emotion. That's the reason why we call it motherland. Secondly, sure, when Janaganamana is being sung, are you only looking at the lyrical structure, or do you feel an emotion in your mind? When Vande Mataram is sung, or when Tamil Song is being sung, there is an emotion associated with it. That's a part of our culture and our heritage. So the leftist argument basically want to cut that off, make it into a debating club, an intellectual roguery where people can go on endlessly debating. And we didn't get freedom of that. Because of that, we got freedom from the British Empire. We defeated the British Empire, one of the largest in the world, because so many people, both from left and right. See, Bhagat Singh was from the left-wing spectrum. Some other Chandrasekhar Azad had more right-leaning. People from both spectrum was ready to give their life for a larger cause. Why can't you have that passion? It's a natural.
I need to interrupt you. I need to, because we are running short of time much. So let me ask you one more question. Since we were talking about all the major points here, since we are in NI, National Institute of Technology, these guys are techies, or maybe they will be going to the other industries. Do they have a job, man? If they come out of the college. Do they have a job in India? No, I'll come to that, because that includes economical factors also. Right? India's economy, majority, not majority, I should say, at least minority, think minority, comes from foreign funds. Right or wrong? People in UAE, people in UK or any other country, they are sending much. And why are we welcome invest in India, invest in India? Why are we calling them? If everything we have it in India, if we have economic stability is there, if the job market is there, why are we welcoming them?
As somebody close in age to all of you, maybe, maybe not. I'll take that mantle on myself. I don't think that our young generation thinks in binaries. I appreciate that you want to push us to the binaries.
Not really.
One second, let me finish. You've asked me a question.
Yeah.
If you're asking me, sorry? You have
No. He has an answer to that. After you.
No. The fact that you think that having an invest in India or asking for ensuring that the question finally came to me on where are the jobs, right? I mean, I felt like I was in a TV debate against a Congress spokesperson. Where are the jobs? There is a peer.
I am not in any politics, by the way.
But
I am not doing that.
how narrative?
I am not into anything. I belong to them.
Great.
Simple.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So I was going to say that I don't think any of us need to think in these binaries. If there is a problem with the economy or if there's a conversation on employment, we can have that. There is a new periodic labor force survey that has come out. I'm happy to share those numbers with you. Our labor force participation has gone up. Now, if you're asking me the question on where these young people are going to get jobs, I can say with an immense amount of pride that I probably am sitting in front of job creators. So significant number of them. I'm sitting in front of job creators. Having said that, right, if we want to reduce the conversation to, if you're building a startup, I was overhearing some finance talk. If you want to build a startup, right, the people who get to pitch to investors, what are they pitching for? Investment in their idea. It's a good thing to do. Raising money. Whether we raise that money internally, we're raising money from multilateral organizations. The remittances that you spoke about is a small amount of our GDP. It is not as significant. There is significant amount of GDP being generated here in India. It is a consumption-driven growth. You want this theoretic? You want me to?
No. One more thing.
Question.
No, let me talk about one more thing then. No, let me.
No. If you want to make this into, if you would like to make this into an argument about where are the jobs,
No.
First question I'll ask is, what job does Rahul Gandhi have? What job does Rahul Gandhi have? I can play my cards.
Yeah, political.
No. But the point here is that we're trying to have
Politics is a job?
intellectual.
No, politics is a job.
Sir, the question.
Politics is a service, right?
What?
No. You said Rahul Gandhi and all those things. Politics is a job.
I'm asking. He's doing service.
No. You
What
said
job has he
being a
had?
politician. So politician is a job.
100% it is.
Then why you're saying the service industry?
One second, let me conclude with this, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes what happens is that we overhype what we think is national service. I'm a young person. I want to contribute to my country. Can I sustain on politics? Probably if I do it all the wrong possible ways. Yeah, sustain and thrive. But we're also trying to build a country wherein you do earn a decent living and you're able to do national service. The choice that many of these young people are going to face is not just where do I apply? It is what we are asking, this side is asking, is find the job that also maybe 20%, 30% allows you to contribute to the country. I work with fantastic startups building satellite technology for agri credit, companies that are solving technology that is solving public problems. The push, the final takeaway from the nationalism conversation, it's not about putting your hand up every time. It sure that's good, that's builds community. But finally, it is about that choice. Where do I want to spend my life contributing?
So,
That's what it comes down.
You have to counter on that. Go on.
so I want to just correct some factual delusions that were just spouted by her. She said our growth is consumption driven. For the last 3 years, our consumption is growing at less than 3% annually. How can she say it is consumption driven? Blue economics service.
Consumption is 60% of driven. We are a consumption driven economy. We are. Bloom Ventures report Indus Valley 2025.
Perfect.
There's a reason I went to an Ivy League.
So,
Why our finance minister had to give the recent income tax cuts? Because there is no consumption growth in India. She doesn't even know that.
So this really doesn't make any sense.
I mean, she talks about unemployment. You got her answer. She said you are on all yourself.
go to the point actually.
That is on.
To the other point. But I want an answer from him now because he just has
Just one point. Just one point.
Go on.
Our prime minister was asked in an interview on India Today. What does he think about unemployment?
Why don't you make a original us?
I will tell you what his response was. He said, in your newsroom, there are some people who are editors, but they want to be chief editors. So in their mind, they think they are unemployed. So here is our leader who thinks unemployment is a matter of subjective feeling. You think they are going to solve it?
No politics. No, we don't enter into that. Now you have an answer into it. Please go on.
Well,
You have a question from him. Okay.
well, my mother often told me you can never win an argument with a woman.
Nonsense, man.
With all due respect,
We have to be honest.
I want to say it this way. I want to put it this way.
That
I want to this inconvenience. I want to put it this way. Do you know why we have job crunch? For the simple reason being, like we have our brothers and various people working with us, working over here. Can they get a bank loan? Can they go and with their meager income start a startup? We are all you're all going to be graduates in few years. I want to ask one question. अगर आपकी ITR नहीं है, आपके पास में collateral नहीं है, will you be able to start or have a meaningful finance to have a startup? The answer is no. Big no. The problem is, until the time we are only concerned about financing few houses, few industrial establishment, focusing upon only GDP and not focusing upon inequality that is being assisted along with the GDP. Let me tell you, we are doing a disservice to the nation. In the recent survey, Human Development Report, what do we see? With respect to inequality, our rank has been dropping. Post-COVID pandemic, the inequalities have been more. Now, middle class has turned into a. Now, please tell me, sir. Sir, what you are doing is, if a person without job, person who's hungry comes to you and you show the GDP growth rate to him, is this the kind of nation you are going to develop or you're going to bring?
Sir, at least we are better than you. You will go on bombing Iran without a reason.
Sir,
We are better than many nations. We will go with a private reason.
sir,
See, how do we equate these two?
sir, you're grossly mistaken. The point is, all this jingoism, all these forms of narratives, they are only meaningful if you are also taking the economy along. if you are concerned with the grassroots development, inclusive growth, if you are concerned with reducing inequality, if you are creating jobs, now please tell me, you know how the GDP develops? There are only wealths which are exchanging hands. There are few establishments. I am very much into the business and I know how GDP and how numbers games are played.
May I?
Sir, Modi ji, attack Modi ji. Don't attack the idea of India.
We are not talking.
If you have a problem, no politics. No politics. No politics. Idea of India.
No politics. Did I talk about any particular individual? Did not
No politics.
What I'm saying is, all these brothers who have worked so hard, got into an NIT, and after passing from the NIT, can we have 100% placement?
Can we have a 100 simple order
Of funding of their
can I get the nationalism?
जब तक आपका नेशनलिज्म इनके फ्यूचर में कंसिडर नहीं कर
आपका गवर्नमेंट इसका फ्यूचर को कंसीडर करेगा
Yes, I agree. I'll answer yes.
Will your government give them loan?
Because Sundar Pichai found his dream job in US.
May I?
Had there been no
Hold on.
when was Sundar Pichai migrate? Goes to Harvard. When Sundar Pichai migrate? Goes to Harvard.
1 minute.
Higher education.
Hang on. Guys, 1 minute.
Sir, if you want to indulge in rhetoric, I can indulge in rhetoric much better.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you ask yourself. Yeah,
When
go
did
on.
Sundar Pichai migrate? When did Sundar Pichai migrate? In which year? When did he do it? I don't know. When did Vinod Khosla migrate to US? How does it? It makes a big difference. What? It makes a very big difference. Just tell me the year in which you migrated, approximate decade. Sir, do you know the highest migrations have taken place in the last 10 years? No, it doesn't want me to keep it. Doesn't matter. Which person my point? Stick to my point. Don't shift the chair. No, you come to the main argument.
What's the point in this?
When I am going to
Yeah, what's your point? What's your point on this?
my point is that you are making this whole economic argument about lack of jobs, whatever parameter you want to take. You're making this as if unemployment is only within India. It is high. No, in India. No other country has unemployment. I'll give you an answer to it. In 2023, under Biden, US saw the lowest unemployment rate in the last 45 years.
May I? Great.
India saw the highest in 27. Thank you. She'll respond.
In no,
Yeah.
in no economic class can you compare the GDP and the economic issues of a US with a country like India. Yes, having said that.
Talking about unemployment.
Unemployment also, whether it's the Gini coefficient.
No, it is
unemployment
particularly relevant because in a developing country like India, people cannot but afford
10% of our people pay taxes. That's
in
where
the US, they have not
overestimate. One second.
and be unemployed. In spite of that, US had the lowest unemployment rate under Biden.
Can I
Let's answer. Yeah.
look? It's a fair argument. There's a lot of disillusion in terms of